you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to Mindshock True Crime. This is Bruce McGuire, and you are listening to episode 22 of the Maura Murray series, Shadows of West Point 2. I'm here with
Maxwell Powers
and Johnny Mills.
And we will discuss some various aspects of Maura Murray's West Point tenure in more detail, including some information from James Renner. But first, let's discuss Curtis Murray and his recent interview. What did you think about that, Maxwell?
Oh, it was amazing. I never listened to it.
Wait, who's
Curtis
Murray? Is that his brother?
Maura Murray's younger brother, yeah.
Isn't this old, though? I heard about this like a month ago. Like, he wrote a poem or something? Is that what it was?
Well, the poem is many years old, but his interview was just the other week. So
what's so special about this poem?
Well, let me read it.
Oh, jeez.
He did it or something? Or?
Well, no, nobody thinks that Kurt had anything to do with it, but they were, in the early days, some people believed that Maura Murray ran away. Or that she was suicidal.
Okay,
but that was mostly information that the police put out.
Okay.
So it was really weird. But anyway.
So this little poem has some details, possibly.
We should do it at the end and then, I don't know.
Well, here's the poem.
Oh, jeez.
What I wouldn't give, where did you run?
Wait. When did he write this? Was it after or before?
After.
Okay,
yeah,
after.
So he wrote this shortly after the spring. What I wouldn't give, where did you run? Is there somewhere that your new life has begun? Adrift in a sea of endless time, what have we done to make you turn your back on us and run? From our love that will grow on your return, why did you shun a life that you had only just begun? To live, to live. What I wouldn't give to only see your face, your radiant smile, flowing grace. If I could know for sure that you've not been lost in time, and if you only knew what your absence here has put us through. In hopes that someday soon you might walk back through that door. I know you're out there waiting until the pain you feel subsides, but your fears, your doubts, your anger, with our love we'll cast aside. Maura, we're missing you so dearly now. We see your face so clearly. We pray with ever hopeful hearts that you'll still walk back through that door. Someday you will, I'm sure. So it seems suggestive that there's some information where she ran away on purpose. That seems to be what that poem is reflective of at that time that he wrote it. So since then, his thoughts on the interview are quite different of what could have happened. He does not believe she ran away or that she would leave the family or him. And yeah, so a lot of people read a lot into the poem as if he was saying or had some kind of inside knowledge that either she had an argument with Fred over the car accident or whatnot, and then she ran away to the White Mountains on purpose. Renner believed she went to Canada to start a new life, things like that. That's James Renner's theory with the tandem driver. So that's kind of reflective of the time period that he wrote it in. And in the interview, he made some very interesting comments. If Maxwell was on the ball, he would have listened to it, and we could discuss it, because this is a Maura Murray podcast. But alas, no.
I guess same goes for me.
We're definitely the right type of people to be doing this podcast.
Well, as long as you've seen it, you could explain it to us.
Yeah. He basically said that they were treated like they were an annoyance by Jeff Williams and the Haverhill Police Department. So, like, they're missing family member, and they show up, and they kind of are treated... That was kind of telling. And also the whole manufactured semblance of Maura being some kind of suicidal runaway that was pushed by Scarinza and the police.
Wait, who was an annoyance? The family to the police?
Yes.
Just kind of weird. I don't know.
Yeah, of course. If your family member disappeared, you went to the police. Would you want to be treated as if you were an annoyance? You're trying to find your missing loved one. It's kind of messed up, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. That was kind of telling. He also kind of seemed to suggest that Tim Carpenter, Kathleen Murray's ex-boyfriend... Do you know who Kathleen is, Maxwell?
Is it One of the sisters or something.
Oh man, Maxwell's on the ball.
That
Yeah,
was a wild guess.
yeah, yeah. Kathleen is the older sister. Yeah, so that was the one she had a conversation with Maura.
Oh,
At
10
UMass.
p.m. or something.
Yeah, even though supposedly we went over this in extensive detail in the UMass podcast, I'm sure Maxwell remembers everything. There was a phone to the security desk line closer to 1 a.m., and that's supposedly what she was really upset about. But anyway, so Kathleen and her boyfriend at the time, Tim Carpenter, had a red truck. And so there was some people who viewed Tim Carpenter as a suspect. He seems to feel that Tim Carpenter is simply not smart enough to pull off any kind of abduction or cover-up, which is an interesting point. And then, of course, Tim Carpenter showed up to look for her, and
Who thinks he's smart? He's not smart enough.
Curtis.
Oh.
And he
That's
was very
kinda
friendly
messed-
with
that's kinda
him
messed up.
until he found out that Kathleen, the relationship with Kathleen was not good. They both had alcohol issues and didn't, it was a turmoiled relationship. But up until that point, Curtis said he got along with Tim until he found that out. And he also, he seems to think that Tim is just not capable. Because it does take a certain amount of brain power. Although if Tim was just being used by other people that kind of orchestrated the whole thing, I wouldn't want to say it's impossible that he had anything to do with it, but we don't know. So back to West Point, I did find, once again, James Renner's blog provides very valuable information. So this was a post on November 25th, 2015. It says, records show Maura Murray quit West Point to avoid likely expulsion. So remember when we talked about that there wasn't real hard evidence of what happened at West Point with Maura, because we don't know? Apparently, James Renner says he has viewed some kind of records. So let's go into his post. I finally had the chance to lay eyes on Maura Murray's cadet records from West Point. They mostly confirmed what was long rumored, that she left the military academy to avoid disciplinary action and expulsion. According to the reports, Maura was accused of theft in August 2001. This was likely the incident at Fort Knox. Once again, so we have James Renner speculating about this particular incident, which once again is coming from only one person who contacted him from West Point. Remember, he went and contacted former classmates of Maura's. Nobody got back to him, except this one person that reached out when they found out that he was writing a book and doing the investigation. So all of this information about Maura's Fort Knox theft is coming from one single person, and we went into this in our previous podcast. So just something to keep in mind. And once again, James Renner does not have conclusive proof that this report of theft is from Fort Knox or something else. And once again, let's not jump to assumptions and judgments without having the facts. We don't know if someone simply accused Maura of theft. How do we know that someone at West Point just said that she stole something from their room or something like that? Maybe they thought she did it, but she didn't, or maybe they didn't like her for whatever reason, possibly involving a boyfriend, whatever. Jealous people do weird things. They could have made a false report, or, once again, they could have made an honest report, they thinking that she was the one that committed the theft when she didn't, so she could be completely innocent. We really don't have any real information here. So instead of just jumping on assumptions from like little tidbits of info,
Her parents should know that, though, right? Like what the
I don't know.
Talk about that. It's kind of
Don't
simple.
know.
Like,
Don't know. Although there was that little comment that Alden Olson speculated upon from Fred Murray, where Fred Murray said things were looking up for her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, depending on the context you take that was from one of Fred.
She was down.
Yeah,
or
but
like not doing.
When
well.
I first heard Fred say that, I didn't take it that way.
I wouldn't either.
I would think everything is good and it's going to get better.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
everything's just on an upward trend because it's just the process of life. You're in school, then you get a job. So, and to be successful in life, whatever.
And there was never any indication that things were bad for her, right?
Nothing
Really?
that's been proven. We don't have anything. We don't have any actual proof other than the first car accident. There's only one car accident where, even if we really want to get technical, do we know she was behind the wheel of her father's car when it swerved in the Hadley accident? Someone else.
The first one.
Yeah, if she wasn't responsible for Patrick Vassy.
Okay.
If she was driving on that one, we're talking 3 accidents. Well, also, there was another report of a spin out in New Hampshire before the Weathered Barn corner. So, and then the driver left. It was in the report, in the call logs. So
and they disappeared too?
No, theoretically that could have been her. So if she spun out, then
Okay.
got back on the road and then drove and then got into an
Gotcha.
accident. So it could have been, we could be talking 4 accidents in the span of several days. We don't know. But once again, nothing is confirmed. Not a single one of them. Do we have 100% irrefutable proof that she was at the wheel? Now, we do know she got her license late, around 19, and she really didn't drive that much anyway. So that's an important point that a lot of people overlook. If she's not a confident driver with a lot of practice, would she really drive up to New Hampshire? I don't know. We don't know. But again, we can only go by what is completely proven, which is nothing. So you're right. So we don't have any 100% conclusive proof that she was actually guilty. But if she was being framed or lied for many things, like the credit card theft or whatnot, that was one point where they did have her mugshot. Some people think it's not her. It does look like a weird mugshot. But let's say that is her. That would probably be the only thing, because she was on probation for that. Now, whether she took the fall for that, we all know how there's many cases where police make people admit to things they didn't do because they say otherwise the consequences will be even worse if they don't admit to something they didn't do. And when you're young, it's rough. You're not going to be thinking as an adult with an adult mind, wait a second, I didn't do it, I shouldn't admit it, they're just trying to trick me. You're freaked out and scared. There's police interviewing you, interrogating you. You're going to do whatever they scare you into if they're telling you that if you admit to something, that the consequences will be less harsh than if you deny it, even if you're innocent. So if you're that scared and emotionally distraught, you're going to say whatever. So I'm not willing to jump and assume she was guilty of that credit card theft. Maybe she was, but without real proof, and she could have been once again intimidated or scared into becoming part of the CI program at that point from the credit card fraud. But yes, with 100% irrefutable evidence that anything was really on her, I don't know. I don't see that. So here's what
What's
James...
CI mean? What's CI
confidential informant.
Okay.
Which at UMass, there was actually one killed there before. We haven't gone into that too specifically. We're focusing on Maura here.
Student?
But yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway, so let's go back to what James Renner has found. Maura, according to the reports, Maura was accused of theft in August 2001. This was likely the incident at Fort Knox where she was caught stealing makeup from the commissary. An honor investigative hearing was convened by order of the commandant, an indication that they had enough evidence against her to take it to trial before the Cadet Advisory Board. In fact, they found there was a preponderance of evidence showing that she was guilty of theft. Maura pleaded guilty. The honor board then recommended Maura be separated from the Corps of Cadets. This recommendation was forwarded to the superintendent. The superintendent's decision was to come by the end of January 2002, but Maura officially withdrew from West Point on January 2nd, 2002.
So the school had a trial?
Well, it's West Point. It's a military academy.
I know,
so
but
they have their
wasn't
own...
Fort Knox like somewhere else? Like, wouldn't the police handle that? Or like Fort Knox?
Well, not if they didn't know. I don't know if she was caught there or whatnot. And then she was also part of West Point, so I'm sure they would want to handle disciplinary action themselves.
Does that
Especially if it
matter?
was like a $5... I don't know. But if it's if you're with a military academy on a military trip, I mean, I'm not sure. You're right. If they don't know that she's part of the military academy, I don't know the circumstances of that theft
Because like
or
wouldn't
the
like
alleged theft.
the store have to say like, oh yeah, we saw her on the security cameras?
We don't know what happened. We don't know if she was reported afterwards by someone else for having taken it and she wasn't caught at that time. We don't know any of these details. And even now, James Renner is speculating that this is relating to that incident. It could be a different incident. We don't know. What are your thoughts, Maxwell?
About what?
Hashtag Maxwell Army.
Wait, what was going on?
Well, we don't know if she was caught stealing by the people at the commissary shop at Fort Knox, or if she had told someone she had taken $5 worth of makeup or whatever, and someone told a West Point official. So this was all after the fact. We don't really know the details. If she was detained at the scene, and then someone from West Point said, we'll handle it. We don't know.
And that was a school trip.
supposedly.
And
We
she's
don't
like
have a lot of information. on it.
19 or 20 years old.
Well, at the time, she would have been 18,
18.
I believe, or 19.
Wait, she
18 or
was still in
19.
high school?
West Point, right after high school.
Oh.
So you graduated at 18,
Yeah,
right?
okay,
So your
right,
first
right.
year of college, you're 18 for
Yeah.
some of the year, and then you're 19 for the
I'm
rest of
trying
it.
to think. So, what would a normal college do if they found out if you stole something on a field trip? Like,
I don't know.
is it really that big of a deal
If
to
it's-
go
well-
to trial for stealing?
Well,
a
the
$5
trial was
lipstick?
within West Point.
I understand that.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds stupid to me.
All right, well, let's go through the rest of. Let's go through. Well, it's an honor violation, so West Point has an honor code.
Alright.
So it's technically not like a regular college, a state college where anybody can get in and get drunk and party. Like it's a little bit different of a moral standpoint
Yeah,
at
but
West
she
Point.
didn't do it at the college.
But that's irrelevant. Like if you go to West Point and then
Yeah.
let's say you kill somebody, like regardless.
different.
I mean, no. Of course, you're going to jail, you're going to prison. But it's not like you wouldn't get expelled from. Like West Point would be like, oh, you violated our honor violation, even though it had nothing to do with West Point. You just happen to be a West Point student.
Yeah,
so
it's
that-
kinda-
What if you weren't
yeah.
on a field trip and you just did something at home, like you punched your brother in the face a couple times or something?
I don't know. That's a good question. If there were criminal charges brought, I would think they might have a trial too.
Okay.
But if nobody said anything, I guess I don't know. Why do you punch your brother in the face repeatedly, Johnny?
It's just, sometimes. you kinda
Okay,
wanna-
Johnny's got some hobbies. Okay, so other points of interest. Maura signed documents that kept medical information and disciplinary news from her parents. So I don't know how they work in West Point. Technically, if you're 18, you're an adult. So I guess legally you could do that. But I didn't know they gave their I don't know how West Point works. She went through cadet basic training and was additionally trained in survival, swimming, self-defense, and combat. She was pulled out of class 7 times in 2001 to appear before the honor board. She had generally good marks but failed statistics and probability at the end of 2001. You know what else is interesting? Not to, again, bring in coincidences and all that, but her quote in her high school yearbook was to laugh it up and defeat all odds. So odds, probability, statistics.
Yeah. But she's a bad girl, man. She's 7 times going
Well,
to
here's
court.
the thing, is that 7 times over the one incident. So they keep wanting to question her about the one incident, or were there other violations we don't know? Okay, Renner also says she may be semi-fluent in German. Not sure what he's getting at there, unless he's thinking she left the country
They
for whatever
can't
reason.
let those records go. They can't, or the families not. Or
Well, you
what
know
is it?
what's... I'm not sure. You know what's strange? If she signed paperwork stating that the records would be private, and she was older than 18 when she signed those records, who's allowed to see those records? And how is Renner allowed to see them? That's strange, right? Because
Yeah,
how did...
so- yeah, but
How is Renner allowed to see them?
maybe the number of times that she appeared are public, and then but the details are not.
But how did he get all these details? How did he even know that she signed papers keeping this... Like, how does he know any of this information? He saw...
I don't know. He's got inside scoop. He's got like spies in West Point.
Maxwell thinks that James Renner has spies at West Point.
Or yeah, I don't know. He's
Maxwell
got-
thinks James Renner is connected in some way. Okay, so here's the update that he put on the post. So what does this have to do with Maura's disappearance? Is it just airing dirty laundry for no reason? I think confirming this information does a few things for the case. 1, it shows a pattern of behavior for Maura that begins with the theft at West Point and continues to the stolen credit card and identity fraud at UMass. This is a complicated human being, as we all are, and she is shrewd, leaving before being expelled to start over. She's a survivor. Once again, I think he might have seen whatever records he had seen, and the records might indeed state what they state. But once again, can we really exclude the possibility that someone at West Point didn't like her and lied about her for honor code violations? Or they didn't lie and they really think she did it because someone else told them that she did it. You know, we've all been to high school, a college to at least some degree. I think we're all PhDs here, right, guys? Oh, Sid Irwin isn't here. We got to have him on again. But, yeah, so it's possible someone lied about her. People are gossipy and jealous, and they create problems that are not true. People lie. This might be a shocker to some listeners. You know, the listeners that say that police would never, under any circumstances, ever do anything shady ever. There are people like that out there. You should check out the Reddit. But
Which Reddit is that?
well, there's a whole bunch of Reddits out there. So, yeah, some people think, even in the Stephen Avery case, some people think the police acted 100% legit in both 85 and 2005. But, yeah, check out our Stephen Avery series. A lot of interesting information there. So, and Maxwell's, of course, a staple of that case. He's always putting out good info. Always on the ball. Seen every episode.
Are we doing those
every day.
T-shirts or what?
Yeah, probably.
Hashtag
Maxwell Army.
I can already picture it like an army and then
T-shirts, mugs,
Maxwell
and
in the
hats,
front.
jackets. Yeah.
Leading the
Maxwell
army.
merchandise. Okay.
Oh man.
So, yeah. So, what do you guys think? Do you think that it's a bridge too far to think that she was kind of framed or lied about at West Point?
I mean, I think it's definitely possible. Was at this time when all this was happening, was this when her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, what's his name?
Billy Rausch?
Billy, they were together already doing whatever they were doing, mentoring?
Well, they got together at West Point. So, for the beginning, I guess no. Before the honor violations, possibly not. But then after the violations, yes. Yeah, I don't know if anybody.
So she
knows
would
the
have gotten
exact
his
date.
mentoring because of those things?
Supposedly, that's what was reported, yes. So he was one of the after the fact. But we don't really know exactly when she met him. And then apparently Julie and her friend, so Maura's older sister, Julie, also went to West Point. So she's there.
Maybe-
And so their
maybe-
friends know each other.
Maybe Billy liked her so much before they even met, or like he's seen her around, so he set her up with all these
Oh,
things,
that's
and
even-
he knew
that's
that he was
really
going to be the
messed up.
mentor.
Wow.
Wait, you said I'm for what?
What a conspiracy
Wait, what?
theory, Johnny
Set up-
Mills.
I said, Billy,
Yeah.
I guess he's like high up somewhere at West Point. He could do mentoring for people.
Ah.
So maybe he noticed more. He's like, oh, that girl's so beautiful. I just want to be with her. But what's the
So he
easiest
set
way
her
to
up?
do this? So he set her up with all these.
Or
like,
had someone else set her up?
yeah, and then they're
Wow,
like, the
that's
school's
dark.
like, hey,
That's
Billy,
dark.
take care of Maura, man. She's not doing well.
Wait, set her up in what way though? I don't get it. What do you mean?
Well, what we're talking about is like she stole lipstick, and then she
Yeah.
has to go to court and like plead guilty and all this stuff. So I guess her sentence
If he made up the
was-
story, for example, let's say Billy tells someone, oh, by the way, say that you saw Maura steal something, and then report it to the honor board.
Ah, okay.
So then she really didn't do it,
Yeah.
but then they're like, we don't know what they say either. Maybe she thought it'd be easier to plead guilty, and then Billy was right there ready to introduce himself as the mentor. That's
Hey,
dark.
Maura.
You know what's even darker,
Haven't seen
which
you
we'll
around
talk
here.
about McDonald in a little bit, but if
Wait,
McDonald
wait
was...
is that how we? All right, hold on. Is that wait? So Billy's like a mentor for like these incoming students.
Yeah.
For some like, yeah, but what does
We don't know
Maura having
exactly-
stolen something make him the mentor assigned? Like I don't.
Well, if McDonald is the one who assigns mentors, and Billy and McDonald are buddies, that's
Wait,
messed up.
McDonald is the one.
Well,
telling-
no, I just said
he's a-
if.
okay,
if
okay,
he's the
okay.
one.
He
Well, I
was
don't
just
know
a
if he
history
is.
teacher,
He's
right,
a
or
teacher.
something?
Yeah, at West Point. He's a professor at West Point. We don't know what he does. Maybe he doesn't assign. We don't know. We're just theorizing here. Crazy
he's a good
theories
man.
on.
He tried to look for Maura with his wife. That was a good.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into them in a little bit. But
Good
yeah,
people.
this Bob McDonald fella. So yeah, that's a crazy conspiracy, Johnny.
It's
She
insane.
was set up, yeah. Well, here's another one. We talked about this briefly too. If someone from West Point, if anybody else transferred from West Point to UMass, like if she had a stalker or whatnot.
We got to see if he mentored anybody else and what happened with them.
Yeah. So, okay, 2. It shows how the family and Bill Rausch spun the media. Go back and look at what Fred and Bill said about Maura leaving West Point. Now, if they did it there, what have they spun about the weekend leading up to Maura's disappearance? Did they lie? Did they simply omit? Would you do the same if you really believed your loved one was abducted by a dirtbag? So James Renner's pretty much saying that because they lied, I don't know if they necessarily lied. They said she transferred from West Point, which was true. So I'm not sure exactly which statement he's talking about.
But he saw the records, I thought, right? Directly, like he saw them with his eyes.
The West Point records? Yeah, which is also kind of strange. How did he get to do that if she signed?
He never uploaded like screenshots or.
I haven't seen anything that he uploaded from West Point, no. He does have his records at Kent State University, where anybody can come and see the records about Maura. They might be there, but you can only see them physically. They have not been digitized.
Well, like a library, they have it like.
Yeah, he
stored there or
he
something?
donated it to the library, yeah, as well as some other
All
research
his
for other
research?
kids. Yeah.
Huh.
Some would say if he was some kind of a shrewd journalist that only cared about profit and making a spin, why would he do that? It's kind of weird, right?
I wonder if
Like-
he didn't include everything.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Held some stuff.
He
back.
also put his records on Amy Mihalkovic.
Put it on her.
No, the Amy Mihalkovic case, the missing girl.
Oh, I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, we're actually going to be covering that case as well. There's some new podcasts about that case, and it's very interesting. So, yeah, I don't know if I'd call what they said like she transferred from West Point. That's all true. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they really needed to say more than that. Okay, 3, it shows that Maura was no pushover. This was a trained cadet, trained in survival and defense. She didn't commit suicide after losing West Point. She changed her life and moved on. Do you still believe she went up there to end it? Do you still think she could have been overpowered by a random killer? Okay, so 2 points there. 1, I agree with him. I don't think she would commit suicide. I think that's the least likely theory based on everything we know about everything. What do you guys think about that?
Agree.
Yeah.
So, okay, on his second point, could she be overpowered? Well, if she really got into a car accident, smashed her head on the windshield, and was out of it, anybody can be overpowered in that situation. Also, her sleep patterns don't seem to be very consistent. So,
She's still young though.
yeah, she could definitely run, unless the knee injury is a real thing, because we talked about why she left the track team at UMass. It seems to be because of Hussein Baghdadi. She had a relationship with the assistant coach. Once again, only a couple years older than her. That was when she and Billy were apart, and
Yeah, supposedly
It's-
she could handle like a machine gun or something.
A
and
tank,
like,
yeah.
like a tank. Maybe she got a tank and just started driving around somewhere.
So yeah, anybody can be overpowered. So yeah, we don't know the real reason she didn't run track again. Supposedly there was a knee injury. Other people think it's because she didn't want to see Haas or just other stuff going on. She might have lost interest, whatever. But, I mean, I'm sure she'd still be healthy enough to run a decent amount.
How far into the semester is that?
February?
February.
It's like a month.
It
couple
starts
weeks.
January.
Yeah, well, the January, the winter break goes pretty far into January. So they had only been back for a week or
2
two.
weeks.
Yeah, something like that. So that's the other thing with the dorm room. It's not quite unpacked.
Okay. So the semester is sort of like just starting.
All right, so what do we think of the McDonald's again? So we talked about them extensively, but a lot of people on Reddit also have some very interesting theory about the McDonald's. You know who Bob McDonald is, Maxwell?
The good people with, good intent to look for Maura when
And
she
interview the
went
neighbors?
missing. Yeah, the good
Okay,
peop-
so here's
good
the thing. So you have to remember, in the early days, this was a DUI walkaway. If you remember all the police footage, I know you've watched all the documentaries,
Yeah.
Maxwell. Nobody's thinking that she was murdered or abducted. They think she was drinking and driving, crashed her
Yeah.
car. So, like, immediately, professors at West Point are leaving their jobs to go search for a DUI walkaway and interview neighbors. That's completely normal in your mind, Maxwell.
how many days after did he look? I forget.
Supposedly, so this was Monday. Supposedly they showed up Wednesday. Some people say they showed up Friday, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
could
that does make it weird.
So they just took
when
off
a
work to look for a DUI
yeah.
walkaway. It's very interesting. And you think that's normal?
Well, I don't know. Like that shows like they were really good friends. I don't know.
No, but even if it was a suicide,
Wait, hold on. To respond to what I said, that says the closeness to the date of looking.
but how? But
That,
how,
it just shows that they were really good friends. I don't know. That's just
how could they have been that good friends? They barely knew Maura.
if you.
They had
All right,
dinner
all right,
together.
all right,
huh?
all right. Let's say I crashed my car, and I don't know. There was like beer bottles in the car, and you know me. I don't drink that much, or like that I won't disappear
Okay.
and not tell anybody.
Okay.
Would you look for me right
We're
away?
not. We went over this again, Maxwell. We're not talking about me. We're talking about
I know.
my professor. who
Okay.
Maxwell, why would my Maxwell?
I mean,
Maxwell. Maxwell.
wait. Wait, Johnny Mills. Would you
Maxwell, hold on,
Would
let me
you
finish.
look like we
Maxwell.
don't talk that much,
Maxwell,
but
you're missing the point.
What?
We're not talking about me. We're talking about my professor. My professor's
Yeah, I
not going
know,
to take off
but
work
I'm
to
trying to.
look for
I'm
you.
trying. Yeah, I'm trying
Listen,
to.
my
I'm
professor,
I know.
professor and his wife are not going to take off work
Yeah,
to go
but
look for
but
you.
Johnny Mills is kind of like my. He could be like a professor because I don't talk to him that much, as much.
But he's not a professor. We're
We're
talking about an older
let's
professor.
talk about.
So if we went to school together and you went missing, you're right. I
I
might
you
show
got
up.
some good points. You got some good points there.
I might show up to look for you, but my professor and his wife, who's also a teacher, are
Okay.
not going to take off work and interview neighbors for where you might
Actually,
have
that's
crashed
not
your
that's
car while
not
drunk.
bad because if like I was just thinking like my employer, I mean they have a vested interest in me to show up. If I don't show up for a week. All right, that's a little different, but still a
Yeah, what
student
did
is
West
kind of
Point-
like an employee, like that kind of.
We're not talking about UMass professor. We're talking about a West Point. Maura doesn't go to West Point, and neither does Billy. Billy's not at West Point now either. Billy's stationed. Billy's in
All right,
the military.
all right. Case closed. All right, you
That
win.
was loud.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, might have to adjust that. Oh, my laugh or like.
No, just that
But
whole section.
I will concede this, Maxwell. If Maxwell, I will concede
You might
this.
have to-
If Billy was still at West Point, and he was super close with the professor, and he convinced the professor that something happened, then maybe I'm not sure if the professor could convince his wife to take off work too and start interviewing neighbors. I mean, we're talking about history teachers here.
You made your point. You win. I'm good.
What do you think, Johnny?
It's interesting that they're history teachers because, it's like history is always wrong and it's written from.
The victors write the history books. If you haven't checked out our alternate history podcast, check that out. It's pretty interesting. Well, our last podcast on our altered history series was if history was altered, how would we know? And Maxwell and I, do you even remember that podcast, Maxwell?
We had two of them. Well, you told me we had two of them.
Yeah, there's two in the series so far. It's an ongoing series, but it's difficult to really prove when history's been altered, how it was altered. So same thing with Maura here. If we don't really know what happened, I think it's bizarrely strange that professors are just taking off of work to go interview neighbors.
Billy went with them. Billy flew down.
He flew.
He went with McDonald.
He flew. He flew into. They both. Yeah, they flew. Well, the professors drove because they're in West Point.
Yeah.
So they drove up, and Billy. I'm not 100% sure where Billy flew into.
Well, yeah. So Maura Murray. So she was supposedly drunk, right? Isn't that what the
Some
theory
people
is?
from the early
like-
days, the Haverhill PD thought it was. I guess, or they want everybody to think that they thought it was a DUI walkaway.
From her location where her school was up to the point where she crashed. That's pretty far.
Yeah, number
2
of
hours, 3 hours. Like I don't know at what point she started drinking, but if she started drinking before driving, I don't know if she'd make it. Like that's pretty far.
Well, once
Depending
again,
on
there's
how-
no proof she left UMass.
unless she was
there's-
drinking on the way or something.
Some
That's
people have
pretty
chimed in
risky.
that they regularly, just to chill, they go out driving back roads while drinking, and that's their
Pastime.
Yeah, so that's why they go on back roads, so they don't get it. So they don't want to kill
Who
anybody on the
said that?
highway. People on Reddit.
Okay.
All right, so we got any final thoughts on the McDonald's?
Weird motherfuckers.
I'm getting hungry.
So yeah, highly strange. They're going around with Billy. Do they provide an alibi? Billy's frenzy of phone calls. Some people actually
By
think.
the way, wasn't Billy supposed to be interviewed by someone like?
Aaron Larkin. Billy said he'd make himself available to an interview, but so far nothing. So we'll
Because
see.
those would be good questions about. the
Of course, and
McDonald's.
it would be very telling to see what questions were asked and answered if Aaron does indeed interview Billy. But real quick, another point is if Maura's breakdown at work had something to do with Billy and the whole West Point scandal regarding sexual harassment of female cadets or whatnot that Thursday night, another one of the many coincidences in this case. I think Maxwell writes everything off as a coincidence. Is that just another coincidence? But if Billy got wind of it and he was calling possibly ex-girlfriends or other students, former students at West Point,
That required
I'm,
mentorship.
it's funny. I'm just trying to imagine what a Maxwell Powers interview with Billy would be like.
And once again, just to clarify, we're not attacking Billy in any way. There's an there's an if at the beginning of all these questions. We're not saying he's guilty. He might be a nice guy, a great guy. We don't know.
By the way,
we're
from
just
all his
saying,
interviews, he's kind of like a cool dude. Like, I don't know, but there was some
calm, cool, and collected. Some would say those are traits of a sociopath or a psychopath.
Oh, let's get him on the podcast.
Billy, if Billy wants to do the podcast, being interviewed by Maxwell Powers. Hopefully, I don't know if he would want to be interviewed by someone who can't get everybody's name straight.
Rausch, Billy Rausch.
No, not his name, everybody else's name, because you're going to start asking questions about other people. You don't even know who they are.
That's all right.
But anyway, so if Billy was calling all these people who may have said something about him at West Point that he thought might be named in the scandal, and if Maura had something to do with it, what if someone convinced Maura, if Billy's guilty, what if somebody convinced Maura to kind of go public with information about Billy? What if, Johnny, are you following? What if one of Billy's ex-girlfriends at West Point or females he could have been involved with at West Point, what if they were going public with charges against him and they were in contact with Maura? And they were trying to persuade Maura to join and press charges against him amidst the scandal.
The Me Too movement.
Well, we're talking 2004 here, but...
Well...
Yeah, that hasn't trended yet.
Oh, yeah. But what I'm saying is, like, just kind of...
Unless history becomes changed and the timelines and dates of everything are changed again. So what do you think of that? How plausible of a theory do you find that? Someone convinced either one of Billy's ex-girlfriends or possibly someone he would have assaulted if he's guilty. Once again, we don't know that he's guilty of anything. James Renner has put out information from supposed victims of Billy's sexual assault or sexual harassment, and there are police reports, and this is coming from Renner, and Billy supposedly is being investigated, and there was or is a grand jury coming up regarding investigating Billy Rausch. So once again, we don't know that's true, but if it's true, and these other people convinced Maura to jump in on it, that's her current boyfriend at the time, so that might be a stressful situation, and we don't really know what was said between them in their whatever their latest conversations that they had. She could have technically broke up with him even that Sunday morning when she's calling him from her father's phone. We don't really know what was said at any point, correct? So she could have actually broken up with him when she had been planning to go public against him, and if Maura was number one, then he could have had someone else help him take her out. And if we want to go down the darkest rabbit hole, if this McDonald is somehow connected with some kind of sexual harassment ring or group of offenders who do this repeatedly at West Point, and they were all going to be exposed, maybe it would be in McDonald's best interest to silence Maura as well. And they had a lot of phone plans the previous evening and the evening where she was, or the evening that she went missing, because they were on the phone at the exact moment she was going missing. Were they talking to somebody else in the area? Do they have police connections in the area? Why would police cover that up? How deep does this rabbit hole go? What do you think of that theory? That's dark. Maxwell, no thoughts?
I mean, anything is possible. It's just kind of hard to say, or even think that something like that would be possible.
Well, according to Curtis, they were being treated as an annoyance. Why would they treat them as an annoyance? Once again, one of the popular theories is Chief Williams was driving around drunk, hit her by accident, and then the whole department covered it up. But that wouldn't account for the McDonald's coming from West Point to interview neighbors. Maxwell thinks that's completely normal, but I don't know.
You changed my mind.
You still think Alden Olson's is super weird for having a picture of a sticker? And asking,
that one. That
one, you're not budging on that one?
No, well,
you're not allowed to ask parking questions at a public university.
Yeah, because you haven't convinced me. But you convinced me about the McDonald's. That was pretty good. But
well, the Alden one, you didn't even know what I was talking about. I was talking about that it was weird that he was served a no trespass order, and the question was answered about the lot. When he asked whether you can park in any lot, that's when Skinner
They went to his house to give him that, right?
Serve the
There's
no
a video
trespass.
of it.
Yeah, he had a video.
Yeah, I saw the photos, and I saw.
You know what's
I saw his
crazy?
blog
If he
post.
didn't have that video, I don't know if anybody would have believed him, right?
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, I don't think he would, because he
crazy.
projected himself as a crazy person, and
well,
I don't think anyone.
I mean, that's the way people interpret it.
Unless they went there for something else.
So I don't know. So what do we think so far? We'll be going over the new. They're doing GPR tests. There's boots on the ground searches in
GPR.
the Haverhill
What's that?
ground penetrating radar.
Oh.
Rick Forcier is named as a suspect. That seems to be pushed by Guy Parody and Aaron Larkin in their latest interviews on the 107 Degrees podcast. But I don't know.
It was an interesting view, though.
To me, Rick Forcier just seems like, I don't know. Once again, I don't know if he's guilty or not. It's just, it doesn't explain all the weirdness. If he's somehow connected with Williams, Haverhill PD, if he's, I think in order to make sense of a lot of this, some of these people would have to be either CIs for the police or somehow involved in the police in order to explain all the shadiness. Because explaining one little tiny piece of the puzzle while all these other pieces remain unsolved, that seems to be why the case is still unsolved to this day, because people are focusing on one piece and not connecting pieces. If it was really only one piece, it might have been solved already. Unless this person is just that much of a genius criminal mastermind to prevent the solving of this case. But we hope you enjoyed another episode of the Maura Murray series and our true crime podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification to receive updates when we upload new episode. If you like the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. And check us out on social media, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter. And you can also check out our Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off.
And Maxwell Powers.
And Johnny Mills.
Have a good night.